Hey everybody, and Tony here with the review of Thomas Addis's The Exterminating Angel, live from the Metropolitan Opera House, which I saw at the Kino de Cultura Brauerei. The conductor was, of course, Thomas Addis. The production was done by the librettist, Tom Cairns. The sets and costumes were done by Hildegard Bechler. The lights were handled by John Clark. The projections were done by Tal Yarden. The choreographer was Amir Hossainpour, and the filmographer was Gary Halverson. This opera was based on the 1962 film El Ángel Exterminador, directed by Luis Buñuel and starring Silvia Pinal, and filmed in Mexico. It had its premiere in Salzburg 1 year ago at the Haus für Mozart, before making its London debut at the Royal Opera House in April 2017, and a few weeks ago it made its American debut at the Metropolitan Opera House. Now, I have never watched the original source material, but I did get myself familiarized with Luis Buñuel, more specifically with one of his most famous works of all time, Un Chien Andalou, known in English as An Andalusian Dog. I mainly went into this opera not really expecting anything at all, but I did hear a lot about Thomas Addis in his most famous works like The Tempest and Powder Her Face. And I knew that this was going to be a major thrill because we have a cast consisting of really great stars, from Audrey Luna to Joseph Kaiser, and especially to the grand veteran bass baritone Sir John Tomlinson. I knew that this was going to be an event that I did not want to miss anytime soon. And because this opera was based on a movie, I cannot give any major spoilers. But it basically revolves around servants leaving the aristocrats' homes, and the aristocrats come in to discover that the servants have left. And what follows is a huge quagmire of fear, despair, lunacy, and paranoia. And it is quite disturbing, but it's kind of fascinating. And of course, Thomas Addis's intense score really knows how to bring out the surrealism of every moment of this opera, and how he managed to make the score come alive with its eerie tones, and especially with the use of a very interesting instrument which has been used in a lot of horror films. I have to say that the score managed to bring out a sense of trepidation, but also a sense of strange wonder as to what is going on in this opera. The overall score is just quite fascinating, and it manages to bring out that strangeness that made this particular film so surreal, yet kind of invigorating. The production and costumes managed to elicit a sense of not only grandeur, but also a sense of paranoia and a sense that something might go wrong. Now, the aristocrats' costumes basically represent that this is the way they see themselves. This is how the outside world sees them. But once the opera unfolds, they start becoming a little bit more deranged, and their costumes get a little bit more tattered, and there are rips in their costumes, and their overall sanity starts to crumble. On top of that, the bear set also elicits this type of haunting atmosphere that makes this particular production so creepy in its overall execution. So I'm not going to mince words here. Both the production and the costumes were absolutely well done in emitting the overall creepy yet fascinating atmosphere that The Exterminating Angel brought us. And now we get to the singers, starting off with Audrey Luna as Leticia Maynard. Now, in terms of Leticia, she needs a high-singing, light lyric coloratura soprano, the type of soprano who specializes in roles like Zerbinetta, Piacere, Rosina, Musetta, and all of these lovely high-singing roles. And not only does she have to sing really high, I mean, she has a lot of E's, E-flats, F's, and she even belts out a couple of high A's above high C's, but she also has to have a very pleasing and accurate tone. Not only does she need to have the blazing high notes of a Queen of the Night, or Fiaccarmilli, or Zerbinetta, but she also has to have the pleasing musical quality of a Papagena, Blanchen, and Musetta. And I thought that Audrey Luna was absolutely flawless in this role. She threw herself into this character, not only vocally, but as an actress. She was able to bring out Letitia's eccentric, grand, and kind of over the top nature so well, but also made her an elegant and kind of dignified woman because Letitia is also an opera diva. She managed to sing her lines with a lot of flawless accuracy, and her voice carried through so well. Which should be no surprise because Miss Luna is no stranger to singing all of these high singing roles like the Queen of the Night, Zerbinetta, and even Rosina from Barbiere di Siviglia, among other roles. She proved herself to be a flawless singing actress with a sleek physique and, of course, her signature lyric coloratura soprano voice, which sounds very exciting all throughout the registers, especially the high register. And of course, she is a completely dedicated performing artist. Then we have Lucia de Nobile, who is sung by Amanda Ejalaz. Now, this role requires either a full lyric soprano or a spinto soprano. Don't get fooled by the initial full lyricism of this role. In the later parts of the opera, Lucia ends up singing more dramatically than in the first parts because she belts out a lot of C's and even some C sharps for good measure. She not only needs to have the lyricism of a Micaela from Carmen, or even that of a Cecilio from Lucio Silla, or even that of the First Lady, but she also has to have that meatiness of a Janufa from Janacek's Janufa, or even Katia Kabanova, and many other great roles from the spinto soprano repertoire. And Amanda Ejalaz was absolutely fabulous in this role. To me, her voice reminded me of Renata Tebaldi, or even that of a lot of the great spinto sopranos of the past, because it has that steely quality which I love in spinto sopranos and even dramatic sopranos. And of course, she is extremely dedicated to her craft as a singer. She managed to carry her voice all throughout the theater, and of course, her musicianship was absolutely peerless. She did a fine job with Lucia that I was practically on the edge of my seat every time Madame Ejalaz entered the stage. She had a dominating presence which made her stand tall so well, and of course, her spinto soprano voice, which had that metal, but at the same time, that luscious quality made her stand out flawlessly. Then we have Sally Matthews, who sang the role of Silvia de Avila. Now, while Silvia is not that much of a high singer like Leticia, she still needs a soprano who can sing floridly. She has to combine the lyricism of a Pamina and Melisande with the florid singing of an Antonia, Lucia Ashton, Adina, Norina, Lacme, Marie from La Fille du Régiment, Gilda, Violetta, and maybe to some extent Blonde from Die Entführung aus dem Serail, Elia from Idomeneo, and Amenaide from Tancredi. She needs a solid technique to her voice, and she not only needs to sing all of these high notes with such flair and passion, but she also has to find some lyrical moments to basically trim her voice down in certain areas. And when she has to let those high notes out, she certainly has to let them out. And I thought that Sally Matthews had a focused, clean, and lovely full lyric soprano voice, which is so capable of doing florid singing. I've been following this fine lyric soprano's career for quite some time. She basically started out in a lot of the lighter roles like Entchen from Der Freischütz, before working herself up to the likes of Constanze from Die Entführung aus dem Serail and even Sifare from Mitridate, and even getting herself nowadays into the more full lyric soprano parts of Agathe from the Freischütz, and next year she's going to be singing Elisabetta di Valois from Don Carlo. Sally Matthews certainly was dedicated in her craft as a singing actress. She was completely involved with characterizing Silvia, not only in terms of a singer, but also in terms of an actress. She had such a lovely physique on stage, and of course, she was absolutely alluring. Her full lyric soprano voice, which is so capable of florid singing, carried through so well. And of course, the focus and beauty that she had to make Silvia come alive as a character was absolutely fabulous. She was a fabulous performer from beginning to end, and I give her a lot of credit for everything she did. Sophie Bevan was an absolutely charming Beatrice. Now, in terms of Beatrice, she needs a light lyric soprano who not only has to sound pleasing, but also has to sound rather young. She needs to have the lyricism of Micaela and Mercedes from Carmen, but also needs to have that youthfulness found in Cherubino from Nozze di Figaro, and Gianetta from L'Elisir d'Amore, and of course Alice from Le Comte d'Ory. And I thought that Sophie Bevan was a flawless sounding lyric soprano. She had this elegance which made her stand out so well, and she had a youthfulness which made her pure. She certainly did a fine job with Beatrice, and I cannot wait to see where her career will be going from here. She certainly worked herself up quite well, because Sophie Bevan is mainly a light lyric soprano who specializes in roles like Pamina from The Magic Flute and Servilia from La Clemenza di Tito. I cannot wait to see her specialize in roles like Musetta from La Boheme, and even that of Lauretta from Gianni Schicchi. The possibilities for this lyric soprano are endless. She certainly held her own quite well, and I cannot wait to see her in a lot more roles in the near future. Alice Coote was fabulous as Leonora Palma, and with this particular role, you do need a lyric dramatic mezzo-soprano who not only has to sing really low notes, but she has to make sure that she has a strong middle range and, of course, a strong top. She not only needs to have the lyricism of Sesto from La Clemenza di Tito, and even to some extent Donna Elvira from Don Giovanni, but she also has to have some strong singing found in the Third Lady from The Magic Flute, and even Ragonde from Le Comte d'Ory. And I thought that Alice Coote did her role so well. What more can I say about Madame Coote? She is, as always, a dedicated singing actress. And this is one of the rare occasions in which she did not get to play a man, but instead a woman. Then again, she also did Carmen in the English National Opera 10 years ago. It's safe to say that Alice Coote was magnificent as Leonora. Her voice was homogeneous all throughout the registers. Her low notes were strong, and her top notes were absolutely thrilling, especially in her little mad scene before she stabbed Christine Rice as Blanca. And speaking of Christine Rice as Blanca, I thought that she was also fabulous. Now, on the surface, Blanca is essentially a lyric mezzo role. And a lot of mezzos who specialize in the likes of Anio from La Clemenza di Tito, and even Dorabella from Così fan tutte, and the Second Lady from The Magic Flute would also tend to sing her, because she does have a lot of really great moments from beginning to end, not only in terms of her voice, which she also has to hit some high notes, but also in terms of her acting, because you get to see her in pain, you get to see her in her paranoia, and you also get to see her in her really insane moments, and I thought that Christine Rice pulled it off flawlessly. I also saw her 1 year ago singing Giulietta from Le Comte of Man live from the Royal Opera House, and I thought that her portrayal of Blanca was her finest work yet. She was able to make Blanca not only glamorous on the outside, but she made her rollickingly awesome. She was able to bring out that paranoia, that strength of character, and of course her overall charisma, which in turn made Madame Rice stand out so well as a singing actress. She was able to bring in a lot of elegance to Blanca, and she was absolutely involved as a singing actress from beginning to end. Yeston Davis was absolutely fabulous as Francisco. And with Francisco, you do need a countertenor to not only make this character youthful and charming, but also quite interesting because he also has some fascinating yet disturbing aspects about him, especially when it comes to his relationship with Silvia, his sister. He not only needs to be a flawless singer, but also a great actor, and Yeston Davis really did his job so flawlessly. He was able to make Francisco come alive as a character with his boyish countertenor voice, and of course, that youthful countenance which made him superb as a singing actor. He was absolutely flawless in this role that I have to give him a lot of kudos. Joseph Kaiser was an absolutely strong Edmundo de Nobile, and what you need in this role is essentially a meaty, full lyric tenor voice. Any full lyric tenor who not only sings the likes of Ricardo or Gustavo from Un ballo in maschera, or even Riccardo from Oberto, Conte di San Bonifacio, but also the meteor roles of Cavaradossi from Tosca and even Don José from Carmen. He not only has to be a pleasant sounding singer, but he also has to be a strong and charismatic actor. And Joseph Kaiser was that. He was able to not only be gallant in this role, but he managed to have this grace, which made him dashing and tall and so awesome to witness. He was absolutely outstanding in this role, and this is coming from someone who saw him 2 years ago singing the role of Peter Grimes by Benjamin Britten at the Theater an der Wien, and I thought he was fabulous in that role as well. Here, I thought that this was also his finest hour. He was able to make Edmundo come alive as a character, and his singing was absolutely on point. Frédéric Otto was absolutely gorgeous as Raúl Yebéñez, and with Raúl, you need a light lyric tenor who not only has to sing all of these high notes, but also has to look dashing and young. Any tenor who sings the likes of Pedrillo, Tamino, Arbace, Aufidio, Marzio, Conte Almaviva, Arigirio from Tancredi, Le Comte Edgardo from Lucia de Lammermoor, Tonio from La Fille Nemorino, Ernesto from Don Pasquale, the Duke of Mantua from Rigoletto, and Alfredo from La Traviata would also flock to sing this particular role because it's also quite demanding. He has a few notes where he has to sing some pretty stratospheric high notes, especially a high D, and of course he has to also implement bel canto singing. And he not only needs to have the grace of a true tenore di grazia, but also the exuberance of an Edgardo, an Alfredo, and even a Duca di Mantova. And I thought that Frédéric Antoine did a fabulous job as Raoul, all thanks to his tall, dashing, and regal presence, and of course, his mesmerizing features, which make me so involved in everything he did. His diction was on point, and of course, he was a charismatic singing actor. He managed to pull everything together so well, and I was in complete awe with everything he did as a wonderful lyric tenor. David Portillo was also fabulous as Eduardo, and with Eduardo, you do need another lyric tenor because essentially in this opera, you have three lyric tenors, but one is meatier than the other. With Eduardo, you basically need a light lyric tenor, one who sings not only gracefully, but also with such dramatic abandon. Any tenor who sings the likes of Fro from Das Rheingold or even that of Ismaele from Nabucco would also flock to sing this role because it is an absolutely fine sing and it does require a fair amount of not only bel canto singing but also a lot of great musicianship and a lot of great tact, which David Portillo brought. He has this youthful presence which makes me want to love him, and he had a certain charisma which made me want to be invested in his performance, and he carried everything so flawlessly. And he was just fabulous. His intonation was clear, and his musicianship was of the highest order. David Adam Moore was a dashing Colonel Alvaro Gomez, and what you need in this role is a cavalier baritone, any baritone who specializes in the likes of Il Conte di Luna from Trovatore, Chonal from La Bohème, Belcore from L'Elixir d'Amore, Rimbaud from Le Comptoir, and a lot of other great roles for a cavalier baritone or even that of a lyric dramatic baritone. He needs to have a focused and dashing tone in order to make the role of the colonel come alive. And I thought that David Adam Moore did just that. This is the first time I heard him sing and saw him act this particular role, and I thought that he was an absolute charmer. The way he was able to bring in a lot of masculinity and virility to this character was so enthralling, and his voice was focused, round, and rich, and it had that nobility which I love, and he was an overall dashing performing artist. I cannot wait to see a lot more of him because his career seems to flourish and flourish and flourish from strength to strength, and he's just an overall charismatic singing actor. Rodney Gilfrey was absolutely handsome as Alberto Rock, and what you need in Alberto Rock is a slightly more dramatic baritone. Any baritone who specializes in the likes of Amfortas from Parsifal, Francesco Moore from Imas Nadieri, Carlo from Hernani, Don Carlo de Vargas from La Forza del Destino, Rodrigo di Posa from Don Carlo, and maybe to some extent Iago from Otello, Marcello from La Bohème, Le Comte de Neve from Les Huguenots, Valentin from Faust, and of course even Rigoletto from Rigoletto, and maybe to some extent Papageno from the Zauberflöte. What you truly need in this particular role is a dramatic baritone who not only has to sing certain amounts of outbursts with such abandon, but also has to trim down certain lines with lyricism. And you need to have a baritone who can combine lyrical phrasing with dramatic outbursts and do so in a way that is masterful. And I thought that Rodney Gilfrey was an absolute pro in this particular role. He's been singing for many years, and the experience shows in not only his acting, but his singing. Even though he's gonna be 60 in a few years, I did not hear any vocal tiredness in his voice. In fact, his voice sounded clear, accurate, and strong, which made him an absolute standout, and he was just an overall great singing actor. Christian Van Horn was absolutely solid as Julio, and with Julio, you do need a true bass baritone who can sing dramatically and can even act dramatically as well. You need a bass baritone who not only can sing the challenging vocal lines of Wotan from The Ring, but also have that slight bit of menace of Klingsor from Parsifal, and even that lightness found in roles like Talbot from Maria Stuarda and even to some extent Orovesso from Norma, and even Moza from I Masnadieri. It's not really a true basso role, it's more of a bass baritone role, but what you need in this particular role is a fair amount of plushness and of course a lot of charisma. And of course Christian van Horn was, as always, a reliable and charismatic singing actor. With his round and rich bass baritone voice, his tall presence, and his elegant features, he certainly stole the show in his own special way. Kevin Burdett was absolutely fine as Senor Russell. And with this particular role, you need a basso cantante. Any basso cantante who sings the likes of Pagano from I Lombardi alla Prima Crociata, Massimiliano Moore from I Masnadieri, Silva from Hernani, Sparfucile from Rigoletto, the King of Egypt from Aida, Colline from La Bohème, Heinrich der Vogler from Lohengrin, Le Comte de Saint-Brie from Les Huguenots, and of course, Mephistopheles from Faust, Mephistopheles and Le Damnation de Faust. And let's not forget the likes of Raimondo from Lucia de Lammermoor, Don Basilio from Il Barbiere di Siviglia, Enrico from Anna Bolena, Orovesso from Norma, and of course Filippo II from Don Carlo. You need a true basso cantante to make this thankless character come alive. And even though his character did pass away in the second half of the opera, you still need to sing this role very well. And with Kevin Burdett, he was certainly a reliable basso cantante. With his tall physique and the way he was able to age his voice so masterfully, I thought that he was able to give this role a lot of life. He was able to give Senor Russell's weatherness so effectively that I was completely invested in his overall portrayal of this character. Then we have the major treat of having the veteran Wagnerian bass baritone John Tomlinson sing the role of Dr. Carlos Conde. And with Dr. Conde, you need a basso profondo, who not only has to sing the low organ-like notes, but also hits some Fs as well. Any basso profondo who sings the likes of the Grand Inquisitor from Don Carlo, Marcel from Les Huguenots, Ramphis from Aida, Osmin from Die Entführung aus dem Serail, Il Commendatore from Don Giovanni, Sarastro from Die Zauberflöte, Veit Pogner from Die Meistersinger von Nürnberg, Daland from Der Fliegende Holländer, and many other great basso profondo roles. On top of that, he also has to play the weatherness of this character really well, while also giving him a sense of eccentricity. And I thought that John Tomlinson portrayed this role so magnificently. He was once upon a time a wonderful Wotan, Dutchman, Daland, Hunding, Hagen, and many other great roles for either a basso cantante, bass baritone, or a basso profondo. These days, he seems to specialize in character roles, but the overall quality he has in his voice, even though it has a little bit of wear and tear, managed to maintain that strength and that ferocity and that virility that he's been very well known for many years. He had a startling presence, which made him stand out so well, and of course, his acting was of the highest order. We also had such magnificent singing from John Irvin's youthful Lucas, Ian Kosiara's characterful Enrique, Paul Corona's virile and masculine Pablo, Mary Dunleavy's gorgeously sung Mini, all thanks to her full lyric soprano voice, which has a lot of great coloratura tendencies, and of course, which maintained that silvery texture, which she has been very well known for. Catherine Cook's firm tone Camilla, and of course, Jeff Matsey's dramatic sounding priest. So overall, the singing was absolutely flawless. Not only from the main players, but also from the supporting cast as well. everyone was a star. And the conducting done by Thomas Adès was absolutely masterful. The way he was able to bring his score to life was enthralling. He made sure that the orchestra was together. He made sure that the singers were in tune. And he just made sure that everything went perfectly. And it did. So overall, what a great evening it was to catch Thomas Adis's Exterminating Angel with a dark and eerie production, great singing from everyone all across the border, and of course, masterful conducting done by Thomas Adis himself. I have to say that this was a superb evening to witness. And for those of you who saw Thomas Adis's The Exterminating Angel live from the Metropolitan Opera House, what did you think of it? Did you really find yourself fascinated with this opera? Was there a singer who caught your attention, whether it be through his or her musicality or the way he portrayed his or her role? Or did you feel like there was something that just didn't really hold up? Comment below and let me know. Well, that's all for now. Be sure to tune in on Thursday where I review Ildar Abdrazakov's and Rolando Friathon's concert at the Berliner Philharmonie. So until then, good night everybody.